Hello, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Wherever you are in the world, it's the 17th of June, 2025. It has been a long time since I've done a video, and it was just pointed out to me by one of our members. And actually, I've had some conversation with others over the last few days about this, and so I decided it's time to go ahead and do an update on Bitcoin. Before I get into all of this, as you all know, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. You're responsible for your own trades, managing your own risk, doing your own research, and I am just one opinion of many out there in the world, and I'm just giving my opinion on the market. So let's go ahead and move on into the chart. Again, as per usual, we're going to keep this very, very short and sweet, simple. No entertainment, just complete business here, because that's really all that matters, right? I'm not here to entertain you. So if we take a look back in mid-2024, there were a couple things that I was looking at, and a lot of those, what they amounted to was we were taking a look at we had highs and lows, we had lower high and a lower low and a lower high and a lower low and a lower high and a lower low. And then what we started to see was signs we were getting a higher low and a higher low, and then we started to get a breakout. And then once we got that breakout, of course, we all know what happened. And if you were all paying attention and watching at the time, I was talking about this level right here when we got that higher low, that we were going to see a thrust to the upside, and that's basically exactly what happened. We got a big thrust to the upside, moving from down here at about 57,000, and of course you all know kind of where we went. We all went basically 2x to about 110. So now that we got to that level, all right, so like what's next, right? We saw a decent correction off of this. We saw a nice correction. I'm counting it as a correction. A lot of people saw this as like an impulse to the downside, but we ended up making a new high here. So this ended up being a correction, and then we made new highs. So now that we've gotten here, let's see if we can count and see where the market's going to go from here. So we got this low here, which I'm counting as a larger degree wave 4, and then this move up here was 5 waves to the upside, and I'm counting this as a wave 1, and then moving down here into wave 2, which means we should be starting, or we should be in the middle of a wave 3. Now, of course, this is just one scenario. It doesn't necessarily mean this is how it has to go. If you take a look at the Wave Master indicator, what you can see here, so we've got a lot of signs that we've got maybe some negative divergence. You've got signs that we may be running out of steam, and it's very, very possible that that is the case. Let's go down to a 4 hours so we can kind of look at this just a little bit closer and see where we could be going. So what I've got here is one count. I'm not necessarily married to it, but from this low, I'm counting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into wave 1, and then ABC in here into wave 2. From this low, I'm basically looking at the potential for a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finishing this wave 5 into this wave 3. And then we've got a nice maybe WXYXZ down here into wave 4. A lot of people are counting this as not WXYXZ, but more of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the downside. And then we've got a correction here, which we did not violate that high, which means we could be in a move lower, much, much lower. And while I do agree that that is very, very possible, as long as we maintain this low here, which is about 100 to 100,500, I'd be okay even going a little bit lower. That just means that the count needs to be adjusted, but I'm not super bearish at the moment. I do think that there is potential that we could see a move back up here to these highs, a move back up here to about 119, 120, and then if we see that move, I do see a pullback, and then a last and final move going up here to about 130 to 135 in that general area. Now, I'm not a big heavy investor in Bitcoin right now. And a lot of reason why is I do think upside is a little bit capped at the moment. Even from where we're at right now, if we took a look at upside potential, you're looking at like a 14% upside in Bitcoin, or a 25% upside in Bitcoin to those levels, which I would be targeting for a move up here to this wave 5. But now that's not a whole lot of upside. So what I've started to do is kind of rotate my thought process a bit. And that's worked out really well for things like Ethereum, which we've seen a nice increase in Ethereum over the last month or so. And what it's all really going to amount to is looking at the dominance of Bitcoin. So this is Bitcoin's dominance here. And what I can see is we're starting to see dominance drop off a little bit. Bitcoin itself is kind of looking a little weak, but with dominance dropping, even ever so slightly, as long as we kind of stay within this range, if we did happen to see a move, for example, go down here, down to about 64% again, that would be ideal. We would start to see altcoins kind of pop a little bit. But what I really want to see for alts to actually do something that's that's worthwhile here, and what I mean by that is, we've seen like this move right here from 65.5% down to 62%. We've seen that happen, and that was a nice move. And when this happened, I still remember it clearly. Everybody was getting really, really antsy and anxious, and lots of profit was being made. But that was really nothing in comparison to what I'm really expecting to happen. And as long as this 65.5% doesn't get violated, I would expect that that Bitcoin dominance is going to drop below 62%. When it's going to happen really is anybody's guess, but I do believe it's going to be sometime this year. Going to a daily time frame, let's go ahead and just take a look at this. We've got a downside target here of about 61.2, an extended target of about 60.71. But let's go ahead and measure this, right? So we get this high here, this low here, and let's get the pullback all the way back down here to about 59.5%. If that happens, that is significant, right? That would be a good wave 3 target, which means what we'd be looking at here. I'm not a huge fan of doing Elliott wave on dominance charts, but a nice wave 3 would take us right back here, wave 4, and then we go for wave 5, which would take us, back down into the mid 50s. Now, keep in mind, I really want to see Bitcoin dominance go into the 30s, right? Even the 40s. That would be a significant, transfer of wealth into altcoins out of Bitcoin. And while I do see a lot of institutions that are buying into Bitcoin, I think all that's doing is really just kind of removing the float, removing what's out there, and putting it into wallets that are off of exchanges. And that's going to give, a lot of, really not a lot of, but a negative amount of liquidity into the market, meaning it's going to be easier to move the price of Bitcoin. And maybe that is, maybe that's something that investors will like. But I do think that there is going to be a movement out of Bitcoin into altcoins at some point. It's just a matter of getting that timing right, which is very, very hard to do. And I'm not one to focus a whole lot on getting the timing right, more than I'm focused on positioning myself the way that I feel is appropriate. And I've got my strategies for that, which I'm not going to talk about here. If you'd like to discuss that, you can find good conversation on our Discord, and always feel free to ask questions. And I know I haven't created a lot of videos here recently, but I'm always active on Discord. So if you ever have any questions, you can always find me there. Ultimately, what I'm looking at is, in summary, limited upside in Bitcoin and major upside potential in altcoins. And I think it's just a matter of time before something like that happens. So that's what I've got on Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance, which heavily impacts altcoins. So that's my thought on alt season. I do think it's going to come. I think it's just going to be a matter of when, not if. Because these things happen in cycles, and the cycle will come, and we will get an alt season. It's just going to be a matter of time, and you're going to need a little bit of patience. So, all right, guys, if this video helped you in any way, shape, or form, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, share, and you can find me. You can find our members. You can find information, charts and whatnot. You can always request charts in our Discord. I'm always there. And you can find information on how to access that with both free and premium options on BitDoctor.org. And last but not least, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, a good night, and a great evening. Take care.